Caradron Arcanauts are adventurous privateers who scour the skies in search of ether gold and adventure, and in this video we're going to show you how to paint one of these miniatures in the colours of the skyport Barrack Nar, and we're going to paint it using the contrast method and paint it up to battle ready. As with any Citadel miniature, the first thing you need to do with your model is to undercoat it, and for our miniature we've chosen to spray it using grey cere, though of course you could paint grey cere on by hand instead if you wanted to. Either way, it's a good idea to have a pot of grey cere on hand because you will need it at some point during the course of painting your miniature to fix any small mistakes, because for this miniature what we're going to do is carefully apply the contrast paint onto the different details, working our way through the colours as we go. The first colour we need is Magos Purple, and I'm going to be applying this using a medium layer brush. It's a really good size for the kind of area we're trying to cover here. And what you want to do is get some of this paint and put it onto your palette like this. It's not to thin it down with any water, you don't need to do that with contrast paints, but it does allow you to check how much paint is on your brush, because you don't want to put on too much at once. So just use the palette to help judge that, and there we go. Once you've got that loaded up, all you've got to do is start painting this onto the purple undersuit. Now you'll see this colour's quite light, so what we're going to do is apply a coat of it like this all over the undersuit, then let it dry, and apply a second coat in the exact same way, which will make the colour just a bit stronger. I've applied that second coat of Magos Purple, and you can see the colour now is much stronger. And with that done, we can now move on to painting the next colour, which is going to be Skeleton Horde, and this is for all the straps and all the leather work. And for this, what I'm going to be doing is using a medium layer brush to apply the paint, because once again, it's a good size for the kind of area that we're covering here. And as before, you just want to use your palette to make sure the brush isn't overloaded. So this time, a good technique to do is load it up with some of the paint, and twist it as you drag across the palette like that to bring the bristles to a nice point. And once you've done so, you're then ready to start painting in all these straps. So it varies quite a bit from model to model, but what we're looking at mostly are these straps that run around the body like this. So you just want to follow all the way around like this. And also you want to be sure you get the gloves at this point, so we're looking at areas such as around here. As before, if you make any mistakes, then just go back to grey cere to neaten up before you continue. There we are, we've finished picking out those details and now ready to carry on applying the remaining contrast paints onto the miniature. First of all, we're going to be using Basilicanum Grey for all the silver metal, and then we're going to use Agaros Dunes to paint in all the brass. After that, we need Nazdrag Yellow for all the gold, and then we need a small amount of Aethermatic Blue, and this is to paint the eye lenses. Finally, we'll need some Black Templar, and this is to paint the black detail on the boots. But first of all, we're going to apply some Basilicanum Grey, and once again I'm going to use the medium layer brush for it, and as before, use the palette just to make sure that you've got a good amount loaded onto your brush, but not too much so that you don't lose control of the paint. And once you've done so, all you've got to do is start locating all the bits that you want to be silver metal and paint this colour over them. For example, on this shoulder pad. Once the Basilicanum Grey is completely dry, you can move on to Agaros Dunes to base coat all the bronze details. And once you're finished with that, you can move on to painting the gold details using Nazdrag Yellow. We're now ready to move on to painting the eye lenses using Aethermatic Blue. Now before you do this, just make sure that the eye lenses are painted with grey cere, and then use a small layer brush for this because you don't need very much. Just very carefully paint it over the lenses like this. And finally, using Black Templar, paint over the boots and also the grips of the sword. We've now finished applying the contrast paint to the miniature, and with that done we can now move on to adding some textured paint to the base, and for this we're going to be using Agrellum Badland. Now to apply this kind of paint what you need is a texture tool, and to use it what you do is just use the larger scoop side just to pick up a good dollop of the paint like this, and then look for an open spot on the base of your miniature, so around the front's a good place, and all you do is just apply it to that area like that, then use the tool to start moving the paint around. As you get close to the feet of your miniature, switch to the narrower side so you have a little bit more control, and just be careful as you go right up to the feet. Once you apply this all across the top of the base, give the miniature about an hour to dry, and then you just need to paint the base rim, and for this miniature I'm going to use Steel Legion Drab. And with that texture paint completely dry and the rim of the base painted, this Caradron Arcanaut from Barrack Nar is battle ready. So when you're painting this miniature using this method, the key thing is to remember that all the colours we use are quite light. So to apply them, what you need to do is carefully paint them onto the areas of detail that you want to be in those colours. The way to really help out in doing this is to make sure that you don't overload your brush with too much paint. And if you make any mistakes, be sure to go back to grey cere to neaten up the next area before you apply contrast paint to it. But really that's all you need to know, so we really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you all again soon.